91.3 Good Times Greatest Hits. Good morning.
We are having a really fun day in the studio today, and in this hour we get a chance to speak to social entrepreneur, activist, and also longtime campaigner for the rights and inclusion of children and adults with intellectual disabilities. Mary Davis is in the studio, and she has been the Chief Executive Officer of the Special Olympics International since May 2016. Wow. Welcome, Mary.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm absolutely delighted to be here.
The timing, Mary, couldn't have been any better, given that you're in town just for a few days, I believe.
That's right.
And this week we're doing a series on special needs and intellectual disabilities. We've talked about education. We've talked about how caregivers and parents should sort of get help if they need it, reach out, and also diagnosis. So now I think we're going to look at a different facet of things. But first of all, why don't you tell us about what the Special Olympics is, the story of the Special Olympics?
Yeah, wonderful. Well, first of all, I'm absolutely delighted to hear that you're covering all these stories. It's really important from the perspective of just raising awareness and general public understanding the needs and the challenges that are out there. So, yeah, Special Olympics. So it's a sports training and competition program for people with an intellectual disability. Oftentimes we get confused with the Paralympics, which is a wonderful organisation as well, providing for people with a physical disability. Now, very much geared towards high-level sports, whereas Special Olympics is year-round. It's a grassroots program in every community. Every day there's an event, there's training going on. And why do we do that? To improve the skills of people with intellectual disability. So by participating in sport, they gain skills like courage, determination, grit. They learn teamwork, they learn timekeeping, they learn so much that prepares them to be successful, not just on the playing field, but in other aspects, for example, in community, in school settings, and in society in general. So I always say we do two things. We provide a platform for our athletes to be the very best that they can be through that all year-round program that we offer. But we also provide an environment whereby the rest of the population can understand people with an intellectual disability, can really understand their needs, can also realise the gifts that they bring, and therefore that they will be more included and respected and accepted in their community, in their school. Many of our many people with intellectual disability are bullied in school.
Yeah.
Yes.
And why are they bullied in school? Because young people don't know. They're not really educated in that area of understanding people with an intellectual disability. So we have this wonderful unified sports program that we offer, where young people in school settings with and without intellectual disability come together through the power of sport to really understand each other. And we have found in the research we've done that bullying has gone down tremendously in the schools where we've been able to introduce that program.
We were talking about that just now because we were talking about education today. And education is so important for neurotypical kids who don't understand the situation, right? Empathy.
Yeah. It's empathy, absolutely. If we can teach to our young people, if we can teach empathy, if we can teach perspective taking, if we can teach moral courage, if we can teach people to stand up and say, other children that are watching people being bullied, that they can stand out and say, that's not acceptable. So we teach that in schools, and therefore by doing that, we are hopefully in the long term, these young people, that they'll go out into the world with a much greater understanding of intellectual disability, and really that's what we want to do.
I love how sports can bring people together, sort of level the playing field for everyone, bring about that teamwork and understanding. In your experience, what are some challenges that people with disabilities face?
Well, one of the biggest challenges they face is discrimination and just being being accepted, and people understanding. Understanding, first of all, their needs. I mean, every person with an intellectual disability has a talent. There's always something that they're able to do. And it's bringing out the best, having the training with the general public, again, having that training to understand the person and to bring out their talents, their gifts, and then all sorts of wonderful things can happen when we do that. Awareness is a big issue for us, and it's an issue here in the Asia Pacific region. I mean, 60% of respondents in a survey that we did are aware or know what intellectual disability is. So there's a lot of work to be done in just making people more aware. And then, of course, when it comes to Special Olympics, people may have heard Special Olympics, but there's that confusion that I mentioned with Paralympics all the time, and people not fully understanding exactly what we do. So we use the power of sport in our work to change the mindsets of the general public, to be more accepting of people with intellectual disability. In a nutshell, that's what we do. We also give these skills, of course, that are so useful to the individual in terms of their greater participation in community and in society.
Wow, I definitely want to hear more about this. We're actually going to head on to Facebook Live and have a deeper chat about all that you do. And we join us right now, facebook.com/1FM913. Hey everyone, please meet Mary Davis, and let's carry on with what you just said, ending off on air about how you do that with sports, like create that awareness. Also, like, how is sports such a great way to help people with disabilities?
Well, people with intellectual disability can be, well able to participate in sport, and they love the participation, they love the social side of it, they love the interaction, and we've found that the skills they gain through the participation in sport have allowed them to go on to do other things in their lives. I'll give you one example of an athlete that I actually coached myself in gymnastics, because I was a volunteer for 10 years at Special Olympics before I got involved on the staffing side.
Right.
So we had one girl who lived in a home, in a sheltered home situation, and she attended a sheltered workshop. So she got involved in Special Olympics, in gymnastics. She excelled in gymnastics. She went on to win the all-around medal at one of our World Games in 1989 in South Bend, and she went on from that sheltered home situation, that residential setting, to live in an apartment.
Wow.
And she went from sheltered work to working in a hotel setting.
Whoa.
Because of the confidence she gained?
That's exactly it. Yes,
Brilliant.
because of the confidence. Well, because of the skills and the confidence and the courage to say, I've got talents here. I'm able.
Brilliant.
Include
really
me,
nice.
include me, and I'll show you what I can do.
Yeah.
And she wrote her own book called Moving On. So an incredible story. That's just one story. We have millions of stories. We've over 3 million athletes involved. We suffered hugely as a result of COVID in terms of the loss of athletes in this region in particular.
Yeah.
We lost over 80%. 80-90% in some cases of athletes, of volunteers, of coaches, family members, because people became disengaged.
Yes. Yeah.
And we didn't have the wherewithal to get in touch with them. We did pivot to do a lot of Zoom calls as everybody else, the whole world did, but it's not the same. And people were displaced for various different reasons, dropped out of the program. So there's a huge challenge here now in the Asia Pacific region to get those athletes back into the program and continue the programming. We're gradually, it's happening. We're increasing between 21 and 22, but we still have a lot of work to do. So we need resources. So that means funding. We need volunteers. We need coaches. We provide the training. We provide all the backup services and the materials, but we need people to come forwards and to get involved in the program in a variety of different ways.
And how can people do that? How can people reach out?
Yeah, they can. Here we have Special Olympics in Singapore. It's a very vibrant program. I had the joy to meet many of the family members 2 days ago, and to meet the athletes who had participated in the World Games in Berlin, who were so proud of their participation and their medals, and who spoke so beautifully about their experience in Berlin. So there's that program's here, and I'd love to have people contact them. The region, the Asia Pacific regional office, is based here in Singapore as well. And whilst they reach out to all of the countries in the region, they have a broader remit, but still they're also working very, very closely with Special Olympics in Singapore.
Just very quickly, being involved in sports myself, and I've spoken to Lisa, of course, who's here with us in the studio, who's Director of Development in the region. My wife is also involved in sports, and we are going to certainly do whatever we can to help Special Olympics. So I call on anyone else listening, please, if you've got any interest in this, please get involved. Please help out.
Nice.
We're just going to head back live on air to continue this chat. Give us a few moments. FM 91.3, Good Times, Greatest Hits. The Eurythmics and Sweet Dreams are made of these. And for some people, their dream is to compete at a high level in sporting competitions, but sometimes there are no resources, there's no support. And thankfully, we have someone in the studio who can help shed some light on this. We have Mary Davis with us, who is the CEO of the Special Olympics. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mary.
Mary, it's interesting to note that the Special Olympics isn't just about sports per se, is it? There's lots of other things as well.
Lots of other things. Thank you for mentioning that, Sri, as well. Of course, whilst we're predominantly a program that uses the power of sport, that's, I think, the best way of describing how sport is the centre of what we do. But we also have a very comprehensive health program, because the disparities in health around the world for people with intellectual disability are ginormous, is all I can say. Again, they're marginalised, they're excluded, and like the school settings, it's lack of knowledge, lack of information. So we spend a lot of resources training healthcare workers, and we've trained thousands and thousands of healthcare workers and clinicians on how to deal with people with intellectual disability and how to treat them when they present themselves in their clinics, in the clinic setting. As well as that, we have a huge amount of volunteer clinicians who go to our events and set up like a whole big clinic in audiology, in optometry, in podiatry, dentistry, all of those aspects, nutrition as well, healthy minds, and the athletes can go through that and be tested, and it is amazing what we've found out. We've had an athlete that had 12 tooth extractions. It was never picked up before. The majority of our athletes leave with glasses because we provide frames and glasses for them, because nobody ever picked up on it, because our population don't typically complain very much. They get on with their lives, they're very joyful. If their eyesight is failing, they think that's the way it is. They don't really complain. Whereas you will say, I don't think I can see very well. I'll go to the optician. But that's not their word. So we've got to be constantly watching out for that. Yeah. And they leave with all these great things. I mean, we had one athlete in the US who had gum cancer. And through going through the screening and the follow-up care we were able to provide, his life was saved as a result of what happened. And We've hundreds of stories like that all the time. So the health programme is enormous. We also want to change policies. We want to work with governments, departments of health, departments of education, departments of sport. And in terms of the Department of Health, there may be policies in countries that we want to change, or we may want to introduce new policies. Or, of course, funding from governments are really important. So I would urge governments to get involved, join with us. We have set up a coalition of inclusion where we're asking governments to sign up to support our athletes in school settings so that people without intellectual disability can learn to be more accepting and to provide the funding for that.
This is amazing. This is, there are so many key points here that we actually discussed with our previous guest, Dr. Natasha, about getting the neurotypical kids in mainstream schools to be more aware, more accepting, and really pivoting them, changing their attitudes and mindset. This is amazing. I mean, I didn't realize that the Special Olympics is quite the platform, and I feel you guys are really addressing the heart of the issues, the heart of the problems, really bringing the necessary help that they need. This is amazing. What is being done or for the caregivers? That's another big topic as well, the caregivers of the athletes as well.
Yeah, of course it is. And we have a wide network of families, because families are predominantly the caregivers in many situations. And they struggle. They're there 24/7, looking after the needs and providing and working with and trying to change mindsets. And they're advocates for the programme and for their sons and daughters, and they want a better life and they want them to be included. So we provide a network of support for families as well. We provide training. We have family forums in health so that they can understand the needs as well of their athlete. And we have some wonderful families. I met them here in Singapore over the last few days, and they're so passionate, and they just need a little lift up and motivation to feel good about they're proud. They're so
doing,
proud of their sons and daughters, and they want others to recognise that. I told the story last night at an event. We were at a fundraising event for Special Olympics last night, which was wonderful. And I told the story of my daughter who invited a child in her class with Down syndrome to come to her birthday party. And she came and they had a great day and they all played and everything. And that evening her mom contacted me and she was crying down the phone saying, Angela has never ever been invited to a birthday party before. So it's that sense of please include, interact, get to know. That they can bring so much love. There's something about people with intellectual disabilities that touches your soul, that never leaves you.
Yeah. You're a person that is so full of love, and you know what, you've placed yourself in the path of such a meaningful cause. Mary, we're so blessed and privileged to be chatting with you to find out more about what you're doing with the Special Olympics. We'll come back and find out about, what else can be done to help people who are neurotypical maybe to jump on the bandwagon as well. Join us on Facebook Live at facebook.com/1FM913.
Good times. Greatest hits.
Say you got such a massive heart. I can just feel your passion, feel your love. I'm getting so emotional listening to you because, this idea of, this morning has been intense. We're talking about how we can be more inclusive as a society. One of our psychologists that we've been speaking to, it's about us coming together as a village. Having a child in the community is everyone's responsibility, not just to the parent. We all need to jump on this bandwagon. We all need to show support and help and be that support for one another. So thank you so much for doing the important work that you do.
Not at all. All these guys do it too. They're just amazing.
Oh, you guys!
There's a whole team with us here, by the way, off camera. So fantastic.
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff. Now, can you tell us, with the work that you do with neurotypical people, how do you help them have a better understanding of working with people with intellectual disabilities?
Well, the most successful way we have found is through play and sport. So if you put people with and without intellectual disability and young people particularly on the same team and have them playing together first of all, the neurotypical person understands that these are talented people. Yeah, they can play sport as good as me. They can swim better than me. They can ski better than me. So, it's a flip in many ways.
Yeah.
You know, that they can be better tennis
Reality
players.
check.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. And they want to be on their team and they want to be participating with them. So that's what we do. But we also involve our youth. We have youth forums, we've youth summits where we bring young people with and without intellectual disability together to work on projects, and then we try to implement those projects back in their local communities. We also have an extensive leadership program where we teach our athletes and, again, people without intellectual disability, leadership skills and how to be advocates, how to speak up and speak out and represent the organisation. So, our athletes are the best spokespeople, and they tell their story better than anybody.
Of course,
because they're right in the centre at the centre of it, and they have a great story to tell. And again, here in Singapore last night, we were at the reception. We had 3 athletes who talked about their talents, what they could do, where they worked, because people, there's so much talk about diversity, equity and inclusion these days. But when you dig deeper into what does that mean, for a lot of people it means gender, it means race, ethnicity perhaps, but seldom do you hear about people with intellectual disability. So
good point.
when we talk about diversity, equity and inclusion in corporations, in governments, in communities,
that's a good point.
we should be talking also about people with intellectual disability and how they can feel included and feel part of where they are, and they can work. They can do really meaningful in employment. And it's about giving people the opportunity to do that. We provide the skills. We prepare. They're ready to go into open employment. I mean, you look at the skills they get, and the example that I gave of Rita, the person who moved on to do all sorts of wonderful things, including writing her own book and her own story. If they're given the opportunity, we give the skills. We give the interaction with young people and with communities. Now, it's up to communities to come in and meet us and understand these talents and be more accepting and include. Choose to include, I say.
Mary, you talked about the wonderful thing about Special Olympics is there's something on every day, but it culminates, doesn't it, in a summer games. Tell us a bit more. Like what that's probably the biggest event that you guys have to run.
It is, yeah. It's our World Games. So again, there's sort of 2 parts to Special Olympics. There's the training part, which we provide, and then there's the competition. And we offer competition at all levels, at local level, at national level. There's games in Singapore in 2025, which I promised to come back for.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there you go. Yes, yeah. Hopefully I'll be back again in the studio.
Oh, wow. Yes, of course.
Yes, yeah. And we'll have got all those athletes back.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we want to get an athlete on as well. That'd be fantastic.
that would be great.
I would love
Yeah.
that. I would love that. Yeah, yeah. And we have Hanako who works in the office here in the Asia Pacific region, and she can tell her story in a most wonderful way. But yes, World Games happen every 2 years, alternating between Winter Games and Summer Games.
Okay.
So the Summer Games just passed was in Berlin, and I think there were about 600 athletes that participated from this Asia Pacific region. Yeah, and I had the opportunity to meet some of the athletes from Special Olympics Singapore 2 nights ago, and their parents and families, and really the pride. The room was gushing with love and pride and respect, and that's the other wonderful thing about Special Olympics. It's a joy. It's just a joy to be part of the movement. It's uplifting for people. It changes. We say we change lives. We absolutely change lives, not just of people with intellectual disability, but of people without as well. All of our lives. of the people that have been involved have been changed by the experience of Special Olympics by going to one of those War Games.
Yeah.
You know, it's just incredible what happens at War Games.
You know, the irony yesterday when I was preparing for the show today, I was getting some questions together. My son, my 7-year-old son, who has autism, kind of peeked over and he saw, oh, Special Olympics, what's that? And I said, oh, it's a different kind of Olympics, son. And he said, can I play football for Singapore at the Special Olympics? He has no idea of what he's got going on. But he just said, I'd love to play for Singapore. His ambition is to play football for Singapore.
Oh, hey.
I said, hey, listen, why not? Sky's the limit. Of course you can.
Yeah,
Of course you can.
And we have unified programs, so
Perfect.
anybody can participate. Anyone can participate. There's no age limit in Special Olympics either. We start at 0. Providing health checks for babies and providing healthcare training for mums as well. So we start at 0, and then competition. Then training starts then from 2 till 6, and then 6 or 8 above they can participate in. I think it's 8 and above they participate in competition.
So Shehzad, we're going to see your son in 2025 when Mary's back in town.
Yes.
Yeah,
so we can all watch him play for Singapore. Okay?
Yeah, he can follow his grandfather. My dad was an Olympian in 1960,
hello.
and so I commentated the Olympics. So I hope that qualifies. So that'll be a 3rd generation Olympian. That'll be fantastic for the family,
thumbs
right?
up to that.
Let's hope so.
Hey.
Fingers crossed.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we also want to ask this. I mean, what challenges, do Special Olympics face, and how can people find out more or contribute in some ways? You mentioned about some of the things that you're hoping people will come on board for.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, resources are one of the biggest issues we have. The more finances that we have, the more coaches we can hire. The more coaches we can train, the more volunteers we can recruit, the more volunteers we can train, and the more athletes we can get involved in the program. And it's all about that. We're a person-centred organisation. So we're all about people and getting more people involved, getting them trained and getting them out there. Training clinicians, that's a huge task. And we've got to prepare the resources, have the staff that's going to do the training, etc. So there's a big cost involved in that. And then, for a lot of the parents that I talked to 2 nights ago here in Singapore, there's the cost of facilities, the cost of hiring a swimming pool, the cost of the bowling alley. They're all a cost.
Yes.
So if we can provide for that, it just makes it so much easier for family members, and they feel supported.
Yeah, and also
as
the
well.
longevity to it, because these are the
Exactly.
realistic needs for that to carry on and continue to impact the lives of all those involved.
I just want to do a very quick shout out related to what Mary's saying. Drum Prodigy, where my son goes to learn drumming, because that helps kids with intellectual disabilities, the hand-eye coordination. They run a free Sunday, dads and lads or parents and kids.
Cool.
They hire the facility and they get the parents to come down, and parents are coaches, and then they have a bit of training and a free kickabout. Stuff like that is exactly what you're talking about. Let's make it easier. Let's make it more accessible to everyone to be able to participate.
Absolutely.
Here.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like 2 nights ago again, when we were in the sports hub, there's this running opportunity that happens every week, apparently, here. And
around the stadium,
coaches around the stadium.
Yeah.
And I participated in it, which was
cool.
lovely, very nice, lovely way to meet some more athletes, but also to see some of the beautiful skyline of Singapore as well. And it was just great to see people joining in, volunteers joining in, learning more about the organisation, learning more about the athletes, interacting with them while they're running. That changes mindsets, and it's easy. Anybody that loves running, come out, get involved, turn up.
We are going to recap some of the things that we can do to support the Special Olympics here in Singapore, especially in just a few moments when we head back live on air. Thanks so much, Mary. 1FM 91.3, Good Times, greatest hits. That's Queen, and It's a Kind of Magic, which kind of captures what Mary has been talking about when it comes to her special work with the Special Olympics.
That's right. And I think what the Special Olympics does is definitely magical. Definitely magical. How it just impacts, changes lives of the athletes, those their families, those around them. We were talking, on just on Facebook Live about how everyone can get involved, the things that the Special Olympics need, especially to carry on their good work. Could you share that once again with everyone? And I want to share this like as if I'm an expert. The website to head to is specialolympics.org.sg. If you want to find out more and even to volunteer, head on over to that website. But yes, Mary.
Absolutely, yes. Head on over to that website and choose to include. And, we have Dr. Sock here and her team at Special Olympics Singapore, and they do a wonderful job. But they need that bit of support. They need that help. And the regional team that are here working right across the region work very cooperatively with Special Olympics Singapore and help them in their efforts to provide better, more quality type program for all of the athletes here in Singapore.
And it's really comprehensive, and I just learned this, speaking with you here in the studio. It's not just about the sports, it's not about the sports training, it's also about the healthcare programs that you have in place for the athletes, which is so critical to their lives and well-being. So hats off to you, Mary. How do you do it? You don't have 24 hours in a day for sure.
Oh, the team. It's an amazing team. I'm just the CEO. The team and the regions and around the world, they do a phenomenal job.
We salute
and the
all of
volunteers and the family members. It's a community. We always say Special Olympics is a family, and it is a family, and we support each other and we lean on each other and we learn from each other and we interact with each other, and that's how we grow and develop.
Exactly what our psychologist earlier was saying. It's not just about the immediate caregivers. You need everyone else to pitch in, and that saying, it takes a village, right? It really does.
It does. A teacher can contribute, a doctor can contribute, a nurse can contribute to our health program. There's just a university setting can contribute in so many ways in terms of interaction, inclusion, facilities, training. There's just, if you look at companies can get involved. Just invite athletes in to speak. If they're having diversity, equity and inclusion week or day in the company, bring in an athlete. Let them speak. Let them talk about what inclusion means for them. So there's a place for everyone in Special Olympics.
I love that, because according to the WHO, apparently there are 200 million people in the world with intellectual disabilities, and they are some of the most socially isolated, misunderstood, stigmatized and undeserved populations, underserved populations. And so there's so much to be done. Thank you so much for championing this, spreading this message all around Singapore, around the world. The tireless work that you do definitely is very commendable, Mary, and it's been such an honor to be speaking with you today.
Thank you, Mary.
And
really
thanks to your team
so
as well for all the tireless work. We hope to have you back 2025.
Yes,
For sure. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
All right. Well, till then, we wish you all the best, and hopefully, we can get more support coming your way.
Thank
Mary.
you. Thank you so much.